Dreams. Let's talk about the meat. How to understand our dreams. Now we'll talk about ways that we can interpret our dreams. So let's start by looking at some information around understanding our dreams first off. Dreams aren't always significant. So for the ones that aren't, you don't really spend a lot of time, or you don't want to spend a lot of time on them. Some of us may think that dreams are always supposed to be these significant, pure events, emerging from this wellspring of life as we sleep, but that's just not the way it is. I'm sorry to bust your bubble. As we spoke about previously, there's different sources that dreams come from. So you definitely want to consider where that dream could be coming from. These triggers could include our physical condition, our mental or emotional condition, and what we call ambient energy. Just general energy that affect our world and what may be going on in or around us in the world at that particular point in time. For example, if you have a fever, the sleep quality it's going to be different, and the dream you have will likely be affected. Also, we talked about those bathroom dreams. Remember when you're trying to get to the bathroom, that could stem from you just having a full bladder, while you're sleeping. So these types of dreams will most likely not be significant, so you won't really need to delve into them to try to, decode them or give them any type of significance or pull any type of, relevance out of those dreams. It's just things that are related to the physical situation going on while you're sleeping. Usually when a dream was significant, you'll kind of feel it was, and so you'll just kind of tap into your wisdom around whether or not a dream was something you should look into or not. The second thing is it's helpful to keep a dream journal. Not only keep a journal, but even look back at the journal from time to time and review it regularly. This is one of the best ways to work with our dreams. A dream journal is a way of recording what's happening, what we remember when we wake up. And it's much easier to do this interpretation when you write down what it is, and you're not just purely going off memory. This is also a good way to refer back to dreams that you've had as you move forward. It's like an intermittent opportunity to review your dreams, and again, you'll only want to record significant dreams. Once you determine that a dream is significant, you'll want to write it down in your journal as thoroughly as possible from beginning to end in full detail. And you'll want to do this as quickly as possible, as soon as you wake up, because your dreams are actually fading from the moment that you become conscious. They disappear very quickly, and we usually only retain about 50% of the dream within the first 5 minutes of waking up, and then only 10% remains within 10 minutes after waking up. So the longer you wait, the more the dream will kind of slip away and dissipate from your memory and your being. You can write it down on a notepad. You can dictate them. I like to dictate mine into my phone sometimes when I don't want to write. and then translate them onto paper later on. That's a bit easier, less time consuming too. You can get a whiteboard with an eraser. That way you can jot down really quickly, you know, and erase quickly. You can basically use anything. You can use artistic looking journals, whatever makes you feel encouraged and creative as you're actually writing. There's been times where I had dreams and I actually drew them, right? I have drawings in my journal of dreams that I've had because I just felt led to be creative in that way. I always say the more you put into these tools that you use to create, the more creative you feel. You know, if you're someone who loves aesthetics, things that are aesthetically pleasing, you'll find that there's this sense of being pleased and this sense of beauty that will be cultivated and stimulated when you do this, and it will remind you to value your dreams even more and guard them as the beautiful gifts that they are. And again, when you keep the journal, you have the opportunity to go back and look at them often whenever you get ready, and the more you do that, you'll have a better sense of what it is, you know, and you'll be able to see what the dreams are. You'll have a better sense of what the dreams are, and you'll be able to see patterns and repetition with things that are being repeated. Or it could be something that's connecting later on that you dreamt about previously, right? It gives you different ways to deal with time as you dream. There's many ways to connect our dreams and to understand them better, as we'll delve in a moment here. We can also take a look and see how our dreams may shift or evolve as times move forward. So definitely dream journals are useful, and you're being invited to definitely invest your time in it. The third tip would be to remember that not all dreams are symbolic. We may feel every dream will be, you know, Latin with symbols, and that we need to work through and interpret and understand. You know, fortunately for us, this is just, it's not true. And I do say fortunately, right? There's some dreams that just straightforward are, you know, literal, and some dreams are just exactly what you see. There's nothing to interpret. It is what it is. It's in layman's terms, you know, and whatever it is that you experienced is what it is. It's just as plain as day. And so the question is, how do you know whether a dream was actually symbolic or whether it was just literal, laid out in plain, you know, reference? And again, it's up to you to decipher that. I always feel like it's more the, I always feel like the stranger dreams that come to us, or the stranger the dreams that we have, and you wake up and you get that feeling like there is something symbolic about those types of dreams. And we wake up with questions around what we dreamt and what it meant and what was it about. I feel like there is a level of knowing. You just kind of know, right? Now, if the dream is precognitive, it's more than likely that it's going to be more straightforward and literal. But it's understanding that the only way that we would know if it was precognitive is if after we've dreamt it, the actual event actually takes place later on. That lets us know if it was precognitive. And it's possible that it could be both precognitive and symbolic. You know, dreams can be beautifully complexed. And, you know, remember that it's that place, where everything restrictive is removed. So just understand that you're able to interpret and work with your dreams, and we're just merely talking about the complexity of them. And then understand that this is definitely a skill, being able to interpret your dreams. And any skill can be learned. It can be perfected and mastered. And the more you do that and hone in on this skill and work with it, the more that it will grow, just like anything else that you practice and commit to. And sooner or later, you'll find, that there is a reward that's actually very nice when you find yourself kind of getting, the hang of it and getting the grips of interpreting your dreams. So just remember that dreams can be both symbolic and literal. And then the next tip is to have a respect for your dreams. You want to have a respect for your dreams. Just because you don't feel like a dream has any meaning to it, it may have a sense of this bizarre or weirdness to it, and it doesn't really seem to really point to anything, or it may have little or very little feeling of a significance, right? Even though it may not feel like it's significant, we still want to respect the dreams. We don't want to disregard them or dismiss them. The fact of the matter is, many of our dreams will seem a little bit crazy, and no matter how often this happens, there's usually some sort of meaning that we can draw or kind of make out of the dream. Sometimes what gets in the way will be our attitude towards them. No matter how crazy, how weird, how lame they may seem, or how insignificant that it could feel, how wacky, right? You still want to respect the dream. If you develop this derogatory attitude towards the dream just because it seems weird, this could actually create a block that keeps you from being able to pull any enrichment from your dreams. So with all of your dreams, right, whether they seem significant or not, definitely remind yourself to respect it. The next tip would be to pay attention to how you're feeling. In working with dream interpretation, sometimes we can get caught up in, the symbols and trying to figure out the meanings. We may even fall into just feeling the only thing to do is to interpret it. But there's other things that are very significant when it comes to dreams as well. Like how you feel is definitely crucial to understanding the dream. How you felt during the dream, how you felt when you woke up from the dream, and even in retrospect, as you think back to the dream, like how are you feeling now that you think back to it? You may, for example, maybe there's a dream that causes you to feel like you're being chased by something. We'll use this as an example. And you keep having this dream over and over and over. It feels like you're being chased by something. Like this type of dream would normally be seen as something that would be kind of scary, right? Or nightmarish, just hearing about it. But as we delve into the emotions around it, how we felt, right? As we determine whether it is or not how we felt during it. Was it the scariness that we felt during the dream? How did it feel? If it didn't feel scary, or if you didn't feel anxious, or tense, then it may not have been like a nightmarish type of dream. Maybe it was just trying to relay some other type of message, like the cycle that you keep repeating, right? Or if it was one that you enjoyed as you were being chased, maybe it's an indication that you're about to be in a situation where someone will be pursuing you, for a relationship. Especially if you remember feeling a bit of pleasure during this, like someone wants to date you. There's other meanings that could be drawn out of the dream as well. And so that's why it's important to understand how you're feeling during the dream. That's a key factor in determining and decoding the dreams as well. What type of emotions you feel can definitely be key and a clue to understanding the dream, or even different aspects of the dream. You may feel very different, things throughout the course of the dream. Your feelings may change through the dream, and then something totally different may arise when it comes to feeling as you remember or look back on the dream after you've waken up, right? So it's important to try to include the feelings as a way of, or as part of the interpretation that you're trying to pull from the dream. The next tip I would give would be to try to wake up slowly. The reason why I say that is because from the moment that you open your eyes from a dream, within seconds of waking up, you're bombarded with what you see, and in your conscience with stimuli. You start focusing on the world around you and everything that's, drawing or consuming your attention. And because of that, you actually lose touch with that inner world that you were just in when you were asleep and dreaming. You lose that sense to the outer world, and the outer world starts to take over and become the center of your attention. Even if the dream you had before waking up wasn't significant, there may be some important information for you in it. There could be, important information for you in other dreams that you had, or parts of the sleep that could have been helpful for you. So give yourself the opportunity to wake up slowly. Like, don't be in a rush to wake up. You don't have to wake up immediately, feeling like you have to open your eyes and just jump to life. Allow yourself to kind of just savor the information from your dreams and from your sleep. And before opening your eyes, just take a moment to just kind of make mental notes of any important details that you remember, while you were dreaming. And then once you've remembered as much as possible from the information from your dreams, then you can slowly, open your eyes, take your time, and you'll find that you're able to make better notes when you go to write down what you've dreamt about. And so I found that to be very helpful. If I slowly open my eyes and slowly start moving about, like it doesn't interfere as much with the retaining of the experience that I had when I was asleep. It works for me. And so that's what I suggest. By allowing yourself to move slowly as you're waking up, this is going to cause your inner self to relax, right? All right, tip number 7 is to try to determine what each symbol in a dream means to you. When we really look at it, when we look at our dreams, they're just bombarded with symbols that can cover the true meaning. And this is one of the most imperative parts in interpreting dreams. With each symbol, it's like the opportunity to figure out the correct and relevant meaning. Not just guessing, but actually putting in effort to figure out what it could mean. There will also be debates over whether these symbols are depicted to have a universal meaning when it comes to our dreams, or whether they have personal or individual meanings. And I personally feel like, because we're talking about dreams, we want to look at them in an individual way, a personal way that will have meaning specifically for you, in a particular way. And if you have not attached a personal meaning, then you can kind of expand out and look at the universal meaning that may point to a way for you to get understanding from that symbol. I feel like our consciousness has its own language, and it's quite different than our conscious. In general, we'll encounter some very universal symbols in dreams. For an example, a bed may symbolize where you sleep. That's like a universal meaning. A phone, a cell phone, may symbolize communication or receiving information from the web, right? Those are universal meanings, as opposed to something you may have a specific relativity to those items for yourself. For symbols that are, coming from our unconscious, it's really important that we look inwardly for answers. And we ask ourselves questions like, what does this mean for me? What do I think of when I think of this symbol? A symbol that pops up in your dream, which is unconscious, will definitely have a very specific meaning in your waking world when it comes to that symbol. For you, the bed could, for some, it may represent restfulness or, something like that. It'll have your own spin on it, your own individual meaning and association. Now, if you're trying to interpret someone else's dream, then you'll need to switch that around and have a discussion with that person about how they symbolize and pull meanings out for symbols that they have or that they see. You can ask questions like, what do you think of this? Or, what do you think of that when it comes to symbols, right? Just to kind of get a sense of where they're coming from or how they're seeing things. Engaging in discussion with the dreamer is really important when you're talking about someone else's dream. And so overall, if the dream is coming up from your unconscious, basically we're looking to find meanings of symbols, things that will be true for us in our mind, things that we draw from the connotations that we see and we have. This will actually give us the truest meaning of dreams for ourselves. The next tip is to understand that a symbol or a dream can have more than one meaning. It could have more than one, representation attached to it. When we look at our dreams, trying to interpret them, we want to be open-minded. That symbol in a dream can have more than one, relevance. And so the dream can also have more than one meaning once you're done interpreting the symbols. for the person who has had the dream. If we try to minimize it to just one thing, then we may be missing out on other important things that the dream could be trying to tell us. The next tip, I would say, would be to pay attention to like puns and plays on words. As we mentioned before, the unconscious operates very differently from our conscious. Our conscious mind is very linear, and it's logical, and it's progressive, like it has order. You know, the unconscious mind is freed from any of those rules. And so the unconscious usually loves pulling in like puns and plays on words, and they'll frequently be turned up in dreams. For example, if you have a dream of a lot of cats, and in the dream you ask, after having the dream, you ask if cats have any particular meaning personally for you or for the person that had the dream. And maybe you're somebody that doesn't even like cats. You know, it's like, no, I don't even have any cats. I don't even like cats. But then you remember that you know someone, or they remember they know someone who has the last name Katz, K-A-T, we'll say Z, right? Could the cats in the dream be symbolic of the person's last name? Maybe it's pointing to that person by their last name, right? That's possible. And then you can think of the nature of the relationship you have with that person. Was it pleasant? Is it a strained relationship? Is it tiring? Is it explorative, right? That'll allow you to pull out even more meaning from the cats being placed in the dream. Another example, you may have like a dream in which you're trying to pick up a bucket. Say you're trying to pick up a bucket. What could that mean? This could be the pun derived from a representation where it means that there's something that you can't quite get a handle on, right? Our conscious will often try to give meanings of things through use of like puns, you know, almost as if you or someone in your dreams were like playing out meanings somehow. And so through puns or pictorial representations, it's a strange concept, but as it mixes literal with symbolic or metaphoric, it brings out different ways to interpret. But it's definitely a way that our dreams are carried out. So this could make discovering your dreams a bit more interesting and fun as well. But it's definitely a reason to always consider whether a symbol or a segment of a dream may be a pun. And if so, what is it trying to tell you? For our next tip, we want to pay attention to tone, inflection, and emphasis. Sometimes in dreams we get hints at meanings that are very subtle. And if someone is telling us their dream, there can be like different nuances, like in the way the dream is being related, that will convey a message or some type of significance in the dream. A person's inflection or tone of voice in relating to some words or phrases it's going to be, you know, quite different, and it's going to point to a meaning or an importance. This can also be conveyed through words or phrases that may jump out at us, or they may feel different, or it may feel unusual as we hear the dream that's related to them. For example, a dreamer may subtly emphasize the word light, right, in telling you the dream. And you would then know that the light in the dream had some type of significance. There's really no guideline or no instruction for you to search for the subtle items and significance of the dreams. It's a matter of just sensing, like when something feels significant. You want to kind of attune your senses to the subtleties and the voices, and use your intuition as well. Initially, this could feel a bit challenging or feel a bit quirky or uncomfortable, but the more that you use it and do it, you start to, gain confidence in this skill, and you grow more comfortable with your awareness around subtle, meanings. The next tip is to look at people in the dream. Sometimes the appearance of other people in the dream may represent a part of ourselves that's being emphasized for some particular reason. It could be that a person in the dream is representing a trait or something about you, that you may tend to overlook, or that you may not really jive with yourself. For an example, let's say there's a person that tends to be very inconsiderate, or somebody that's just a little bit rude, who always insults other people. And looking at the dream character, if this person was in your dream and you're someone that don't like this particular characteristic about yourself that you're seeing in the dream, you may be being reminded that you don't like rudeness to a point that you may suppress that part of yourself. And in doing that, you may come off as someone who is overly friendly. And this could be giving you a message that, like, there's a need to assert yourself more often. In the same way, a dream character could be indicating that you may have a tendency to be like rude, or maybe excusing it within yourself while condemning it in others, right? Somebody's appearance in your dream could also represent a positive characteristic as well. It doesn't always have to be negative. Let's see. It could be something that you don't really like to give yourself credit for. For an example, the dream about a teacher, one that's good for our students, so good that the students learn the material well in the dream and they do well on tests, So the dream may be reminding you that you're a good example for others, and that you help others in some type of way. And so looking at other people appearing in your dreams could potentially be part of ourselves, that we're looking at. And maybe sometimes it'll give significant meanings as well. And the next tip is using one of our critical tools while interpreting the dream, which is our intuition. The intuition is very crucial for determining correct meaning in dreams. Our intuition can guide us in sensing the meaning of the symbols in dreams, and it's actually a very pertinent way of using our intuition and understanding the dreams. It's actually a tool that shouldn't and can't be overlooked or undervalued in this process. If you haven't developed the intuition, or you don't consider yourself to be, intuitive, know that this is definitely a skill that can be learned and developed. There are actually ways to hone in on this ability, but it does take some practice. It does take some commitment, some patience, some time. And so if you learn the ins and outs of dream interpretation, and you learn some steps on how to interpret, but then the intuition is left undeveloped or it's lacking, there's going to be a huge part. It's going to be a whole lot of meaning around the dream that's going to kind of fall by the wayside. It's going to be missed. And so the intuition is probably going to be one of the most important parts of being able to interpret the dream. So make sure that you make it a priority as you're working on dream interpretation. Even if it's just your own, you don't have to be someone, I know I mentioned it, that's looking into other people's dreams. You may, who knows what gifts that you hold once you start tapping into them. But the intuition is definitely part of the skill set that's going to be needed to be developed if you're going to do dream interpretation, whether it's your own or someone else's, right? And then making sure that you are conversating with other people. If you are diving in interpreting for other people, you want to have a conversation to make sure that you consider the person who had the dream at a higher value than your own considerations around their dream. The information that they give you is going to be primary information that you'll need to interpret the dream. And so having the discussion with the other person, right, is going to be of a higher importance than you just trying to interpret their dream. Make sure you're talking with that other person who had the dream, so that you'll get more insight into the personal meaning of their dream. And also taking into account the symbols, right? But getting more information around the meaning, especially as it relates to the person's life or what he or she may be experiencing or dealing with in that moment in time, right? This could look like simply just asking questions, just simple questions, about some of the symbols in the dreams, what the dream felt like during the dream, and just looking for like validation and confirmations that the dreamer can also, be experiencing. You can ask if they had any type of relevant situations that they were dealing with lately, right? It's important to understand all of those context clues in regards to the person that you are trying to help, if you are someone that reaches out and does that and helps others interpret their dream. That's the goal of interpretation. When you're interpreting someone else's dream, is to give as much as possible as far as insights, that's helpful and informative for that person. And that involves talking with that person and going in and allowing them to actually be the main part of that interpreting, okay? So there's a method that we can use, or a step-by-step directive we can use as we're interpreting dreams and as we're remembering and recording them. And so this process is going to actually be good, and feel free, even as we add what these extra steps in, they'll be useful for you as you interpret. The first step in the process is to ask yourself, what type of dream is it, and whether it's significant or not. Not every dream is going to be significant, so you don't want to take time to waste on dreams that, just don't have a significant meaning for you. And this involves determining which type of dream it was. That'll give you the answer. Was it a dream that you were just kind of filing away information or categorizing things you've learned during the day? Those are the ones that may not be as significant as, say, a dream in which you were visited by a loved one who gave you a message in the dream, right? So it's a matter of determining whether it's significant or not. Number 2 is to ask yourself how you felt in the dream. How did you feel upon waking up from the dream? And how do you feel in retrospect as you look back at the dream? Feelings are important, and various feelings and emotions can give us clues as to the meanings of the dreams. As we're working with dreams, we always want to take into account our feelings around what happened during the dream, also after the dream. Number 3, review the dream in detail from beginning to end in a very comfortable, relaxed, state of consciousness, and see what goes through your mind as you do this. If it's another person's dream, you can ask that person to, relay the dream to you in detail from beginning to end. This too will give you an opportunity to kind of use your intuition. This step is important as you start to kind of grasp meanings in dreams. Sometimes those meanings and associations will flash through your mind as the dream is being reviewed. And it's very important to, be in a relaxed frame of mind as you do this so that you can make full use of your intuition. It's also important that this dream be relayed in as much detail as possible from beginning to end. And you'll be tempted to just kind of summarize, for interpretation, but don't do that. Make sure that you include every part of detail. Part 4, or number 4, begin to look at every symbol in the dream and decode it, remembering that it could have more than one valid meaning. And I know this can be a lot of work. It may take some time, especially if it's a longer dream, but you'll definitely want to include and go over every symbol in the dream and decode the meanings, okay? No matter how weird the symbols may be, they should have a valid meaning once you accurately pull the meanings out. There's also what we call dream dictionaries, and so that will be helpful so that you don't feel like you fall into the trap of thinking that you have to interpret everything, within your dreams. If you don't have a value assigned to a symbol in your dream, you can use other tools that are at your disposal as well. Number 5, look for any prominent words or phrases, as well as any puns or plays on words and pictorial representations. And then you want to look for their meanings. Remember, your unconscious loves puns and plays on words and loves to draw pictures, and these could have significant meanings in your dreams. If you have trouble finding any, don't forget to employ that intuition of yours. Hone in on them like laser focused eyes. Number 6, look at other people that are appearing in your dreams as if they could represent like parts of yourself. Remember that sometimes other people's appearing in our dreams may be significant and part of us, or personal characteristics of ours. They may even serve as symbols for us. So there's need to really determine what each person represents, and also pull out any significant meaning for each person in your dream. Number 7 is look for any elements of your dream that may have particular significance for you, and then pull out these meanings. If you have strong intent in something, elements connected to it may turn up in your dreams, right? Like an artist might dream of colors, or a numerologist might dream of numbers. You know, these elements have symbolic significance for these types of people, and so they should be determined that they mean exactly what is meant in the context of the dream. And this could add layers of meaning or nuance to the dream. So those type of things, we want to pay special close attention to them. Number 8, ask yourself what the general theme of the dream is and what area of life it relates to. Significant dreams will often give us important information about our lives, but we need to be able to determine which area of our lives it's pertaining to. It could be career, it could be family, you know, it could be passions or creativity, it could be romance or relationships. And so we want to get a sense of what's, you know, that general theme is around that dream. Number 9, we want to break down the dream into various story segments, especially if it's a long dream. This will be like storyboarding the dream and breaking it down according to each smaller scenario. And then we'll be working each segment to figure out its full meaning. This step is especially helpful to do with those longer dreams. Remember that some dreams can be fairly short, you know, and as little as 4 minutes long, while others can actually be much longer and more involved. They could be as long as like 27 minutes long. And so trying to work with a long dream all at once can be overwhelming. So do yourself a favor and break it down into little segments that can be very helpful. Then take each segment and determine what it means. You could also refer back to each segment as you're working through them, just to kind of keep working forward and piece them together until you've actually pulled out the full meaning. Number 10, put all the dream segments and their meanings together, right? Try to see what picture emerges and how each segment relates to the other. And then once you know the meaning of your dream and you understand each segment, what they mean, you know, you've put them together so you can see the whole picture and how they relate to each other. Now you should feel more complete as you look at the dream, like as a complete picture. You should have moments where you go, aha moments, and moments of recognition as the meaning starts to resonate for you. Number 11, ask yourself, what could have triggered the dream? Was it something you experienced during the day or before? Knowing what might have triggered the dream can even provide more useful insight into its sources, meanings, and what you may need to do with that information. And number 12, once you know the meaning of your dream, allow yourself to determine whether you need to actually work with that dream in any way. Remember that you want to understand your dreams so that you can use them as a tool. Once you understand what the dream is telling you, then you'll find it more easy to figure out what you need to do with the information and apply it and use it appropriately. And so this segment of our dream series talks about how to actually work with our dreams and interpret our dreams. It also talks about putting steps together and how to actually work through the dreams and pulling meaning out of them, and even actually how we can apply them to our lives. And so I hope you've enjoyed this segment of the Dream series.